If you've tried everything to scale your Facebook ads, and no matter how many tutorials you follow, no matter how many ads you test, you just can't seem to find an ad that will scale your account further, and you're ultimately stuck with a Facebook ad account that won't continue to grow your business. Well, today's video, I'm gonna be sharing the number one thing that you're probably not doing that can potentially help you break past any barriers you're currently facing and help you scale your Facebook ads further. What's going on, everyone? It's Spencer here, and if you're new to the channel, I run a growth-focused agency by the name of Easy A Media, where we help multiple 6- and 7-figure brands scale their sales profitably. And in today's short video, I'm going to be talking about one of the most important things when it comes to creating and scaling and growing your business with Facebook ads, and for growing any business at all, for that matter. So without wasting any more time, let's go ahead and jump to the screen to see what this is all about. All right, so as you can see, we're now inside the screen, and as the name says here on the slide, we are going to be talking about what we have called the growth loop. Now, the visual I'm about to show you, aka the growth loop, is something that has been absolutely crucial for our agency to help scale our clients further all year, and it's going to become even more important for us as an agency in 2024 as our entire focus is shifting from high volume to high effectiveness. If there's one thing that we've learned this year, is it's not about the number of ads that you have in the account, it's about the number of winning ads that you have in your account that makes all the difference. So what I'm about to show you is going to be absolutely crucial for you to start seeing success in your ad account, and as I mentioned at the beginning, for you to start seeing success in your business as a whole. So without any further ado, here is the growth loop. Okay, it's very simple. It is not complex at all. And most of you, if you've ever heard of a feedback loop before, are looking at this and probably like, all right, well, I've heard this before. What's so special about this? Well, I hate to break it to you, but you're probably not actually following this the way that you should. So the reason why we have actually gone ahead and renamed this as the growth loop rather than the feedback loop is because most people don't really care for feedback, and feedback oftentimes has like a negative connotation around it. So by renaming it as the growth loop, it has now become something that we rely upon in order for us to actually grow, as the name suggests. Now, I've gone ahead and just changed the window here so I can actually circle things with my mouse. Now, this growth loop, and the reason why it's so important, is because each and every single pillar plays a crucial role in order for you to actually see success. Now, I'm actually going to pull up a visual that explains the reason why you're probably failing to scale and what your growth loop probably looks like. But just to break this down simply, the growth loop functions as data comes in and you take that data to then create a strategy. Now, once you have a strategy that is backed by data and influenced by data, you then need to execute on that strategy. Now, this is something that is super, super important because so many people are great at talking and are great at strategizing and saying, oh, we should do this and we should get an ad with that, or we should go work with this creator. But so many people fail to execute. You could have a great data analysis, you can have an incredible strategist, but if you don't have people who can execute, you are going to fail. So as much as I'm going to quickly go through this execution piece here, just know that the execution side of things is so important. And then following the execution here, we then need to go into the testing side of things. The testing side of things is obviously pretty straightforward. The reason why we test is because we then need to get the data. And as you can start to see, we're going to go back around again, as once we get the data from the initial strategy that we executed on and tested, we're then going to build a new strategy. And by doing this and going around and around and analyzing data, strategizing, executing, testing, analyzing the data again, strategizing, executing, and testing, and doing the same thing over and over and over again, you're going to learn a ton from every single strategy that you execute on. You are going to start to compound knowledge around what is working and what is not working. So that way, when you take the data of what is working and what's not to build a strategy more on the side of what is working, each and every time you are going to get closer to your goal and you're going to begin to scale your account. However, the problem is most people's growth loops look a little bit like this. This growth loop, as you can see, starts with a strategy. You then execute as per usual. And again, a lot of people sometimes fail to execute. So you can imagine that there's potentially people there that they just strategize and that's really it. After you execute, you of course go in and test it. And then once you get that data, that's where your loop ends. And in fact, this isn't really a growth loop. This is like a growth horseshoe. You're strategizing, executing, testing, getting the data, and then doing absolutely nothing with the data. That is a great strategy to stay in the same place for a very long period of time or drive yourself insane. And now, as much as I make fun of this, I'm not going to lie, we are guilty ourselves of doing this. Because the truth is, it's a lot easier to say, oh, of course we take the data and we go ahead and use it for our strategy. But at the end of the day, a lot of teams and a lot of employees and a lot of agencies are just trying to get the work done because they're supposed to be testing ads every week. So they're just trying to get an ad ready to go. And they're not even really looking at what's happened the week before. And we're guilty of doing that ourselves. What I'm talking about here is not easy to do. So as much as I poke fun at it, as much as I say this is the reason why you're failing, I want you to know that this is a really hard thing to do. Because at the end of the day, each and every single one of these pillars each have their own components and need to be done the right way. So like I mentioned, if you're strategizing, executing, testing, and then not really doing anything with that data, you're just basically hoping for the best. Now, I don't want this to be taken the wrong way, especially when it comes to ad creatives and ad strategy as a whole, because there are times where you just have to do something completely outside the box. This growth loop here is not me saying that once you find a winning ad, you should only create ads like that winning ad. But what I'm saying is there's things for you to learn from every single test that you run. Now I'm going to zoom on my screen again because what actually happens the majority of the time is there's a very, very thin purple line here for whenever you find a winning ad. Most people will then look at that data and be like, oh, well, this is a winning ad. I need to use this to strategize and execute more ads like it. But the truth is all of the real gold is found in the ads that don't convert. So even if you are telling yourself that, yeah, I have a great feedback loop, I look at all of my winning ads, I would bet money that you have a graveyard of failed ads that you haven't looked at because you just probably don't have the time or you just don't care to because they lost. Now, the next part of this is what I like to call completing the loop, okay? How do we go from a growth loop like this where we're not learning anything from the data to a growth loop like this where we can continue to improve each and every single time? Well, the first thing that we need to do is we need to review the data, okay? Did the ad win? Did it lose? And what metrics can we pull from the test that we ran to help us understand what the heck actually happened? Now, if you're using our one campaign structure and DCT testing campaigns, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, definitely make sure you check out my AI Facebook strategy. But for us at the agency, the data is very clear. Did the ad get spent and did it hit our cost per acquisition or return on ad spend targets? And then from there, we're able to analyze the data. So for example, if an ad gets a lot of spend in our campaign and it meets our CPA and ROAS goals, we've just found a winning ad. So we now know for a fact that this ad is working and there are a ton of learnings for us to take from that. And then on the other side of things, if we launch an ad and it gets zero spend, we need to dig deeper and figure out why. And my favorite way to do that is to go now into step number 2, which is to review the strategy, okay? What was the thought process behind this ad? Or again, if we're just applying this to business in general, what was the thought process behind this entire decision? Why did we do this? Now, to come back to Facebook ads specifically, we need to ask ourselves questions and pull up the ad right in front of us and watch it or look at it and break it down. What is the messaging of this ad? What am I showing? What do the comments say on this ad? Has anybody left any feedback for us? Did we have a spelling mistake somewhere? Is the product not showing? Is it unclear? Do people not know what's going on? You need to review the strategy behind each and every single ad that you create, winner or loser. More often than not, you'll find that the ad that you thought was a pretty good idea, now that you've been able to test it and see that it failed, doesn't really seem like such a great idea a couple of days later. It was probably more along the lines that you were told to create ads and you needed to get ads done, so this is what was done. Again, this is what we want to avoid. So by reviewing the strategy, you're going to be able to start to, again, complete the loop. Now, the third part of this is going to be reviewing the execution, okay? We need to identify what was executed well and what was executed poorly. There are so many times we have incredible ideas, but at the end of the day, we just fail to execute on them. You could have the best idea ever. You know, you're thinking of like, okay, we're going to shoot an old school, Coca-Cola commercial, and it's going to be in this incredible environment, and there's going to be this, big jack dude and saying how it makes him feel stronger, or whatever the ad idea is. And then you go to execute it, and it's some guy in a white t-shirt with a stain on it in his garage talking about how he loves your product. Execution really matters. So a lot of the times when ads fail, it often isn't because of the strategy or the data that you use to actually come up with the idea. It comes down to the actual execution of it. And again, this is done by just sitting down and reviewing the ad and actually thinking through it and wondering, hey, why did this ad fail? Because at the end of the day, based on whatever metrics that you're tracking, again, if you're using our strategy, it's spend and CPA, or if you're using some other strategy, you'll be able to see that it didn't meet your CPA or ROAS goals. For a fact that this ad performed or this ad did not perform. It's very clear. You've got your defiant answer there. So you need to keep that in mind when you're reviewing the ad. If we're trying to review an ad that hasn't been tested yet, don't ask, because honestly, it doesn't matter what I think. It just matters what the actual market thinks. So again, make sure you review the executions of your ad, because I can almost guarantee that the big ideas that you have in the ads that you're trying to create are great ideas, but you're probably failing to execute on them. Now, the fourth and final thing is to apply all of the learnings from each and every single test. Take the learnings from the test that you run and all of the data that you've compiled by, checking the ad account to see how it performed, reviewing your overall strategy and figuring out why you created the ad in the first place, looking at the execution of it and figuring out whether or not you did a good or a bad job, and then take those learnings and apply them to the next round of creatives or the next round of whatever it is that you're doing. And as you can see down here, I say take the learnings and apply them on future ads or site-wide, because for example, if you notice that you have a new winning ad inside of your ad account and you're starting to sell a product like crazy, there's probably some on-site optimizations that you can make, and that is also a part of that growth loop. So again, win or lose, there are learnings to be applied, and it's so important to make sure that you take the time to actually do it. One last time to bring this all together, once you strategize, you need to make sure that you execute. Once you execute, you need to test it properly. Once you test it properly, you need to analyze that data. And once you have that data, you need to apply it. And then finally, the most important word on this entire slide is consistently. You need to do this consistently. And if you do all of these things consistently, you will be guaranteed improvement. At the end of the day, that is something that we're all trying to do, no matter the business that we're in. If we're making progress and we're getting closer to where we're trying to go, then it's only a matter of time until you get exactly where you're looking to go. So with all that said, I hope this growth loop is helpful for you. And I know it's very simple in nature. It's these four basically rows just going around in a circle. But at the end of the day, this is so important for your business and for your overall ad strategy, CRO strategy, email marketing strategy, anything that you're doing involved with e-commerce or business in general. This loop right here is going to be your new best friend. And I have honestly tried to ingrain this in my brain so that anything that I do revolves around this process. And as I mentioned at the beginning, if you follow this process and you work at this consistently, I can guarantee that you will improve and make progress. And if you're improving and making progress, you're going to achieve the goals and targets that you're trying to ultimately hit. Well, that's all I have for today. If you enjoyed this video, I just ask that you click the share button down below and send this to someone else who you also think could get value. And as always, if you're a multiple 6 or 7-figure Shopify brand looking for the help of a growth-focused agency, I'd highly recommend to book a time with me down below to get your custom action plan so we can help make 2024 the best year yet. Once again, thank you for taking the time to watch this week's video, and I'll see you next week.